Today's podcast, we're going to be talking about Babymetal criticism. Man, the fans are split on that latest song from Me to You.
And I'll tell you what, I saw that shit coming, and I can't wait to say I told you, but also say I'm sorry.
Thank you. Babymetal fans debate screams in the new songs from Me to You. Blabbermouth.net on the singles release, emphasizing the high concept music video, which I didn't even realize until watching that after the fact, which we'll talk about that too today. The video features a futuristic dystopian setting where Poppy undergoes a dramatic transformation aligning with the song's intense themes. And we're going to talk about these general critiques that are happening in this video already. So many see screaming as a tool that can enhance the song, which I am part of that camp. I see it as a tool to enhance the song when it's done sparingly. The main divide is over Poppy's execution. Some found it powerful and fitting, while others thought it lacked depth and felt out of place. There's also some broader frustration with the production choices, particularly around the vocal mixing and auto-tune. Guys, they've been doing that to Sue's voice on a lot of songs. This is why we go to live shows, so we can hear her raw voice. That's the whole point. This isn't the first time that they do this on her voice at all. And I think that's why we like the live shows, because we get to hear it raw. We get two different versions. We get the nice production version, and we also get the version that's live. That sounds great.
Yeah, I saw a couple people saying the reason that they were using that style of autotune in this song was because they were trying to make it so that Sue's voice and Poppy's voice sounded more similar. So they didn't have such a jarring presentation when they came out, and they'd be able to layer over each other.
Here's my thoughts on the screams. I thought the screams were good on the song. I also agree that lower screams would have been better, in my opinion. I think it would have been a better contrast, but I don't hate it. I liked it because it was done sparingly, and you saw it develop as she turned into the demon by the end of the video. It was done perfectly. I thought it was a really good song. I think we're just getting picky about the screams. She has a certain type of scream, and that's the one she's good at. All right? Sorry, not everybody is like Alex Terrible from Slaughter to Prevail or Lorna Shore. There's dynamic screamers that are crazy, but she's not one of those type of screamers. She has one specific scream that she does, and she sings also, which is another challenge in itself, being good at screaming and singing and switching back between both of them.
There's so much that comes down to the Poppy being in this metal scene that it can be attributed to people just not wanting somebody that they consider to be insincere or disingenuous to the genre being a part of the genre. And I think that's totally unfair, because if you know anything about her from the past, then you would know that this was like a really natural build to this point. But I do think that one of the biggest issues here is that people that really love Babymetal just want the girls from Babymetal to be able to pull off all of the parts. I saw a big complaint being, why do we have to have Poppy come in and do the screams when we could have Momo do them? And my response to that is,
that's what I was just about to mention.
Momo is learning, and we've heard her like underneath do some like really nice backup stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody's sure at this point, because we haven't seen it put into practice, that she can go out and do a full verse of scream.
And that's a really good point, because a lot of us can be good screamers for 5 minutes, but can you do it for a sustained amount of time during a song? Because I know when I tried doing screaming, it blew out my voice, and I couldn't do clean vocals for the rest of one of my sets that I did in my cover band. I did the Linkin Park scream, was doing it improperly, and it fucked my voice for the rest of it, and I couldn't do backups for the rest of the night. And I had to learn how to like properly scream those parts for that song. And I don't think Momo Metal has that down yet. And let's be honest, a lot of people just hated Poppy's screams just because they've already heard Momo Metal do screams, and they just were like, why would you do that and just not have her in there? You could argue that she could have recorded all the screams, just did it on different days of the week. But also, I don't think Koba wanted to do that. He wanted to do legit collabs. We do have a Slaughter to Prevail collab coming up, so we're going to get that dynamic also.
And that's not the first time that we've seen the screams either, because the dude from Bollywood was screaming also, right? Bloodywood.
Yeah.
Bloodywood, right? I feel like...
I was going to say real quick, if you compare her screams to all those other screamers, she's definitely lower on the list, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, the guys from...
less time also.
She's been doing it for less time. Those other guys are at a other level, and they have a uniqueness to the scream. Like, all the guest screamers that they have on, you could argue, too, are all unique, though. Poppy has a different scream. Slaughter to Prevail has a different scream. Bloodywood has a different scream. Like, they're all different, unique screams on this album, so we're getting a huge, wide range. I really just think fans are mad because Momo Metal wasn't doing the screams.
I think there's three reasons that I've seen people get the
Bring Me
most
the Horizon
notified.
is a good one.
So one, it's because Momo wasn't doing the screams. Two, it's just because they don't like poppy screams in general. And three, it's because they don't like screams. And I think that you fall into one of those three camps if you like really didn't like the screaming part of the song. It's one of those three reasons. Now, if you don't like screams at all, totally get it. I said that at the beginning of the last video when we did the reaction to this, and like a bunch of people were like, no, it has nothing to do with that. We're fine with screams. And then a bunch of other comments were like, God, I hate screams. I was like,
Well, Merrick in the chat said Bloodywood's mixing was on point and I can hear all voices. This collab with Poppy is horrible. I want to mention something about the Bloodywood mixing. I did check out the behind the scenes where the guitarist is mixing the song, and that is the difference in my opinion, is that one of the members from the band is mixing the song. There is no member from the other band mixing songs. I just feel like when you have a band member mixing the song, there's just more love put into it, and they know exactly what they want, and that's why that Bloodywood mix was better. But I don't think that mix was horrible. Come on, you can't say the mix was horrible. It was not horrible. I've heard some horrible mixes, all right? I've heard some really horrible mixes. It was not horrible, but it definitely wasn't Bloodywood standard. Bloodywood mix was just a different artistic form of mixing. A lot of people disagree with the Bloodywood mix.
It's just a change because I feel like, so we looked this up afterwards and it was like a lot of the production, I believe, went to the dude that's been working with Poppy from Bring Me the Horizon or one of those bands. Jordan Fish is the guy's name. And he had a big part in the production. And I was talking while we were listening to it how it sounded like one of Poppy's songs off the new album. It's very obvious that he had his hands in there. And that's why the production sounds so different. And he might have very well been one of the reasons that you hear the other two Babymetal girls less in that song, because he just doesn't know how to properly, I don't know. He hasn't worked with that before. Only the Babymetal team has worked with that. And I believe they were involved also. Whenever you get collaborators together, there's going to be some discrepancies on how to finish something or whatever. And I think it sounded more like the production of a Poppy song than a Babymetal song, which if you like the Poppy songs, then that sounds good. But if you like the Babymetal production, then that might not.
I don't think it's any less than the other mixes. They're just different styles of mixes. I guess you could argue, yes, it's a lower tier mix compared to the other mixes, but that is like a very thin margin. Very thin. Like, we're getting really picky here. And to be fair, I've been definitely picky about mixes, and I'm trying to be better about that. But it wasn't necessarily a bad mix. It wasn't bad. It was definitely a way to mix a song. I guess you could say that for anything, but there was nothing annoying about it, in my opinion. It sounded very cohesive. It sounded very good. The way that was mixed, you could say, oh, I'd prefer maybe some low end that could have been entered into the voice, and they could have done that with Poppy's voice. They could have EQ'd a better low end maybe to give it more of a dynamic range.
No,
but
you can't. Not with her. Not with her. She's so high pitched, dude. Have you heard that song with Knocked Loose?
You know what?
That guy Brian, and he's got the most high pitched voice of any screamer ever. And then she comes in and it's even higher, and you're like, oh my god, that is.
You know what? To be fair, they probably did put in some lower end frequencies in her voice still, and it still came out like that. But it's a balancing act when you're doing mixes, and when you have that many types of vocals and you have all the instrumentations, it is a challenge to carve out your place in the EQ spectrum when you're putting together a song. And then you have the compression that will take up the lower sounds and make them louder, and that can make those high pitches really stab you in the ear. So that could be what some people are feeling with it.
Yeah, I also think that I want to throw a defense out here for the Babymetal fans, because like I've been in this camp before where you're watching the progress of the people in your band. For example, they had a replacement singer how long ago? I don't know, 2 years ago at this point or something, and Momo came in. And then you saw those girls start to get a little bit more featured as time went on, right? So if you're watching this and you're watching the growth of this group and you're hoping to see more vocals from the two side members, and then instead the band starts to do a lot more features and they start getting pushed a little bit more to the background, I can see why that would be a little bit disappointing to you. Like just watching the progression and then seeing the progression not halt, but maybe slow down a little bit just because they have so much variety now with who's joining the team. So I do see where you could feel that way. right? And especially if you have somebody like Poppy come in, who, let's be real, I love Poppy. I've said this a million times. I've watched every single thing that she's ever done. She is gimmicky. So if you're watching the progress of your band and then a gimmicky person is brought in to put on top of it,
dude, do you hear?
It might feel like you're going in the wrong direction.
Do you hear? We could say Babymetal's gimmicky. You're just some people are going to say that. They're like, Babymetal's already gimmicky. What do you mean you're bringing in another gimmicky person into your band?
Yes, and I view that as a huge positive, and that's why I love the song, because I love both.
The battle of the gimmicks.
The Babymetal gimmick. I love the Babymetal gimmick. I love the Poppy gimmick, and them coming together is like a super team for me. I've watched and listened to everything that both of these artists have ever done. You know what I mean? And I've watched them grow and get better and heavier, and like them coming together and creating this super heavy song where I thought it was sick personally. You know, yeah. I love it.
And Ken was saying in chat, every band technically has a gimmick, and you need to have some type of gimmick. I hate that word has such bad connotation attached to it. You need a gimmick to stand out. You just do. Otherwise, the band will not make it.
It's not a bad word.
Yeah, yeah. Because even if you think about it, okay, even if we go back to the 90s, right, when Nirvana came out, technically that was still a gimmick to be like, not trying as hard, because compared to the 80s, everyone was trying really fucking hard. That was their gimmick when they came out onto the scene. Not saying it was intentional. Yeah. It was more authentic, of course, but then it became less authentic. But
there's a difference between the gimmicks that you get from a boy band in the late 90s in America. These corporate put together Backstreet Boys, blah, 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 whatever. That's a gimmick where you're really not sure how authentic ultimately they are. But with Babymetal and Poppy, both of them, we've seen progress over the years of them come outside of the bounds of the gimmick that was created and still do very artistic stuff. And I think that's what matters, right? Like the art inside of it.
These two comments are really good points. Glemley says, it's just a matter of what gimmick appeals to whom. Absolutely. And then Merrick goes on to say, gimmicks need to have substance behind it. I agree. But there is a lot of gimmicks that don't have substance behind it.
Like Kiss is the most gimmicky band of all time, also one of the most popular bands of all time. If you want to say they have substance, if you don't, that's up to you. But I find more substance personally in a gimmick like Babymetal or Poppy, for that matter, than I ever did in Kiss. I also think it's more artistic, and I think it's harder to pull off.
We got to remember, Poppy has some amazing songs, like some phenomenal songs, but then she has some really trashy songs like that I think is, at least there's some songs I'm just like blown away by Poppy, and then there's some I'm like, why did I listen to this? What is this?
She goes all over the genre board, right? So you'll get like an EDM song from her, and then you'll get a metal song from her, and if you don't like EDM, you're probably not gonna dig that one.
To be fair, like Babymetal has done the same thing. There's a lot of songs I know people will not listen to from Babymetal. They will only listen to the first two albums, and that is it. There's still a lot of people that will only listen to the first two Babymetal albums and will not even touch Metal Galaxy. And then there's a camp of Babymetal fans that only listen to up to Metal Galaxy, and they don't like the other one with Divine Attack on it and Monochrome. A lot of people did not like their concept album or whatnot. But there's a lot of bangers of the songs. So Babymetal goes through the same thing, a bunch of transformations between songs and stuff. And I guess it's okay to some of the songs, okay to not like some of the songs. And
I don't want to get on people's case for not liking an album. That I get annoyed, honestly, when people are like, "Oh, you didn't like this one song that my favorite band liked, you must not be a real fan." You fuck off right now. There are full albums of my favorite bands that I don't like. It's perfectly okay to not be into it for whatever reason, but it's the reasoning behind it, right? If you're a Babymetal fan criticizing Poppy for being too gimmicky, or a Poppy fan criticizing Babymetal for being too gimmicky, then you're not fighting a real battle, right? You know, this is silly stuff, right? Both Babymetal and Poppy are two of probably my top 10 artists of the last 15 years.
Cynical.
And even though I don't like half their music, it's just so interesting to watch them progress and become what they've become.
Cynical in the chat says, could be that the entity behind Babymetal cares more about the fans they don't yet have. They are going to do whatever they think grows the brand. And that's a good point. I think they should do a happy medium of both, of trying to get new fans, but also please the existing fans. And someone was saying Sue Metal's vocals are a little bit buried in this track. I don't know if they were completely buried, but maybe they should have put a little bit more up to the top, since it is on a Babymetal album. And I would agree with that. Maybe it could have been a little higher in the mix. And maybe they could have put Momo Metal doing some screams in this song, in this collab alongside Poppy. That would have been cool. Maybe even if it's just for a couple sentences. And that would have been a happy in the middle ground. You're pleasing the fan base because they're seeing Momo Metal get better at something, and she has a little bit of screams, but you also have Poppy screaming in there also. I think that'd be a perfect middle ground to please the fans and get new fans.
I think we've all gone through that with our favorite bands where it's, they start to change a little bit or change like what they're reaching for a little bit. And that's not what we're looking for. So you get a little bit disappointed or what have you. But the way that I'm looking at this is there's this fresh new scene that has been developing over the last couple years in the world of this new kind of a metal world that didn't exist before. I don't want Babymetal to be left out of that. They're like at the forefront of this like new metal takeover, and I want them to have their place. Them being like separated into this own little niche side, like they've already got their fans. They don't need to do anything else, but I also want them to get the recognition that says like, we were one of the first ones that like really brought this metal scene back into the worldly culture. Like I want them here. I want them touring with these bands, and I want them playing with these bands because I want them to have that respect.
Sonic, I was saying in the chat, I like both Poppy and Babymetal, but I like Babymetal's wholesomeness and not so much Poppy's strangeness. To be fair, Babymetal has a lot of strangeness. We're just in a bubble and we're just used to it. But anybody from the outside that listens to Babymetal are gonna be like, "What the hell is this?" Babymetal has its own form of strangeness, but I guess you could say it's wholesome strangeness. But show anybody Give Me Chocolate real quick. That's not in this music space.
People are going to be like, that's weird as shit. It will also say that's probably wholesome. You know, I don't know if I've ever seen Poppy and thought this is anti-wholesome. Yes, she's not trying to be wholesome, but I've never listened to her and been like, man, this is so dirty or vulgar. She's just screaming, but she's weird. Don't get me wrong, she's a weirdo. But not in like a.
She's probably just such a normal person outside of everything. Experian was saying people should realize bands need to evolve their sound. You can't just keep on putting out the same stuff every album. It gets stale. Agreed.
You want to know what band like is the perfect sort of like archetype for that?
What band?
The Red Hot Chili Peppers. Because those guys came out with all that like what's up for the first 5-10 years of their career or whatever, and then they got softer and had a whole second career as like a soft sort of alt rock band that still kept their fandom around, but also was able to evolve over time with what the
they had a strong punk side in the beginning. But anyways,
exactly.
If you're watching this late on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and be here for this podcast that we do every Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We get live when we talk about these articles, so please join us. All right, appreciate you all. See you.